Good morning. Happy Friday. Welcome, Glenn Beck Insiders. Welcome to the Torch Insider Show. I am Jason Butchell. The big news of the today, Glenn is back. He is back and fired up, roaring and ready to go. I'm watching all of you guys come in right now, getting into the Torch Insider stream. Joseph, good morning all. Daniel Tiger, is Glenn Beck back? He is back. Apparently got over those, little case of the sniffles that he had yesterday, but he's back ready to go. I was just talking to him in the morning meeting. He's got a ton of things that he wants to get to. Gail, good morning from Eastern Oregon. Mr. Anderson, good morning. Kenneth Wick, Dave. Sick, twisted freaks unite. Yes, the time is now, and there is a lot of stuff that we need to get to, a ton of stuff. And actually, we should probably address, we need to get our emoji system or our badge system updated because you all have survived two DDoS cyber attacks. You guys have survived that. Plus, you've also survived the Power Hour with Jason Butchell yesterday. I think that deserves a major catastrophe badge that you need to have for enduring that. I appreciate you sticking with it yesterday. It was actually a lot of fun. Everything Glenn wants to get to today, I probably could say this every single day, but I don't think that we're going to have time to. I know Glenn's going to react to a couple of things that he feels very strongly about. Let's just say that. I'm not even going to tease those. I'm going to save that completely for him. We're probably going to see that in hour one. He's also going to talk about Kristi Noem and her new appointment. Did you see what she was named to, or I guess what she's kind of laterally moving over towards? Is that a punishment, or is that hints or signs of something much larger to come? Glenn's got a few opinions on that as well. We're also going to talk about the senatorial race in Texas. A lot of drama surrounding that. Who's the president going to endorse? Who is he not? I think we kind of got maybe a hand tip to that on where that's going. But also, Ken Paxton did something kind of amazing on that, in my opinion. Glenn's going to talk about that as well. We're also going to talk about oil prices. Oil prices, I was trying to throw in all the stories to Glenn this morning in our morning meeting, just surrounding oil prices themselves, because there is a ton of stuff happening with oil now surrounding what's going on with, of course, the Iran war. Did you see oil prices this morning? It's producer Matt, throw this up really quick. This is oil prices as of now. They're at 86.46. Now, this was just yesterday. It was down in the 70s yesterday morning. It's over a $10 price hike just from yesterday, and it's still fluctuating kind of up and down. But we're getting close to $90 a barrel. But what the heck is happening with oil prices? I think it's really interesting that it did not spike as the experts thought that it was going to spike right at the beginning. But now, as more pressure is starting to hit the Straits of Hormuz, as multiple other different moves are happening, it's starting to spike up. There was this article in CNBC. Producer Matt, throw over this really quick. U.S. crude oil tops $80 a barrel. As I just showed you, it's now like 85, 87. But U.S. crude oil tops $80 a barrel as escalating Iran war disrupts global fuel supplies. There's this little bitty nugget right here. Well, check this out. Tanker traffic through the Strait of Hormuz remains at a standstill. Let me just say, there is no possible way President Trump allows this to continue. So there is something planned in the immediate future. There's a few hints and tips on what's about to happen. Jason? But, yes, Glenn, come on in.
He's calling the next phase the big wave. Now, could be wrong, but what's on the sea? Waves. I just think that there is no way he is going to let this go through the weekend. There is absolutely no way. If oil spikes, remember, oil over $100, $120 a barrel, sustained, collapses the Western economy. He's just not going to let this happen. He won't let this happen.
Something big happening, and
something big is coming.
Thanks, Glenn. If you live in California right now, I do not know how you're doing this. In Texas, if we get over 250 for gas, we start freaking out. I think it's like now, I went and looked last night. It was like around 280 or something like that. So there were already lines at the pump at 280. So I don't know how you're handling this in California. I can't wait to see what Glenn says about oil prices in California and the developments of that. You see the comments from Chevron, some crazy stuff going on. All of this, a lot more.
The fusion of entertainment, enlightenment, and empowerment. This is the Glenn Beck Program. Glenn Beck is on.
Hello, America. Welcome to the Glenn Beck Program. We've got a lot. It's Friday, by the way. That should be some good news. I'm going to tell you what happened yesterday with Kristi Noem and the president. Also, Ken Paxton and John Cornyn. I've got a different spin on both of those things than I think what you're getting elsewhere. Also, big, important news on oil prices. They are beginning to go up. They're not spiking, and I'll tell you why they're not spiking. Why is this war different? Why are oil prices not spiking when they're saying that the Straits of Hormuz is going to be shut down? Oil per barrel should be going through the roof. There's a reason why, and I'll explain that coming up and what all of this means, especially this weekend. I think we're going to see some more things happening this weekend. Maybe I'm wrong, but we'll see. We're going to start with Kristi Noem next. First, let me tell you about our sponsor. It's Preborn. You know, if you listen how our culture talks about big decisions, there's always the assumption that, people make them calmly and rationally with plenty of time to think. That's not us at all. We are so McDonald's in our thinking all the time. What's next? Who's next? Pull a number. Real life is messy. It's emotional. It's fast. And sometimes people find themselves facing a situation they never expected. Fear, confusion, crowding everything in before they've had a time to really even process what is happening. And that's the kind of moment that preborn clinics exist for. When a woman is facing an unplanned pregnancy, everything can feel overwhelming and a little terrifying. And there's lots and lots of voices and opinions and pressure about what she should do next or could do next. Preborn clinics slow that moment down. They provide free ultrasound so a woman can see her baby, ask questions, and have a chance to think clearly about what comes next in an environment that's supportive, compassionate, and free of judgment. Just $28 provides one ultrasound. Every dollar helps save babies and share hope. Donate. Dial pound 250 and use the keyword baby. Pound 250 keyword baby. Go to preborn.com/Beck. That's preborn.com/Beck. Sponsored by Preborn. All right, so let me hello. Thank you for listening. Let me start with Kristi Noem. What happened yesterday? Something happened in Washington. Looked a little like chaos. Looked like trouble. And I'm not sure. Maybe it is. I'm not sure. Kristi Noem is out as Department of Homeland Security Secretary. And in her place, a guy named Senator Mullen. Now, let me start with Noem. She wasn't fired. She was moved. And she was moved into something that was like, what the hell is that? I've never even heard of that. Doesn't even fully exist yet. It's a position called the Special Envoy for the Shield of the Americas. We are going all Marvel comic. I mean, this guy is all Marvel comic. Okay. Let me translate what this usually means in Washington and may mean this time. I mean, what I'm going to give you here is going to give you facts and then I'm going to speculate on them. So, take it for what it's worth. When a president moves somebody into a job that hasn't been fully defined yet, it usually means one of two things. Either A, yeah, bye-bye, you're being pushed aside. Or B, you're being moved in to run something that is bigger but isn't public yet, okay? And if you look at the timing this doesn't feel like a demotion. And I'm getting mixed signals because some things it looks like Donald Trump is pissed at her about, et cetera, et cetera. So I really don't know, because this is speculation. But it feels like a reorganization of the battlefield, because it's the shield of the Americas. I know that doesn't mean anything, but follow me on this. Right now, the United States is looking at a hemisphere and a hemisphere problem that most Americans still don't fully understand or see. When Donald Trump was running, and I've told you this before, but it's worth repeating. When Donald Trump was running for re-election, we were standing backstage someplace, and he was getting ready to go on. He said, "You want to look like a prophet? You know what you need to talk about? You just keep talking about Panama." And I'm like, right. And then he goes on stage, and I'm like, what am I going to say about Panama? What does that mean? I don't even know what that means. Panama is going to be in the news everywhere next year. And then he walks on stage. And I came back and I went, does anybody understand what he's talking about with Panama? What's happening in Panama? We all looked at each other like nothing is happening with Panama. What are you talking about? Remember when he gets in, what does he say? Panama. We want the Panama Canal back. And you're like, what? Where is this coming from? Because he understood what was happening with Panama and China. China had taken the entire Panama Canal and was controlling it. Then what happens? He starts talking about Greenland, also in our hemisphere. Then what happens? He's talking and making moves on Venezuela. Then what happens? He's talking about, you know who's next? Cuba. Okay. Whew. Cuba, Russia, cartels operating like parallel governments across Mexico and Central America, Chinese ports being built all over Latin America, Russian intelligence operating out of Caracas, Iranian proxies using the region for logistics and staging grounds, and every other president has treated Latin America like an afterthought. But now what's happening? It's not an afterthought anymore. The Southern Hemisphere has become the new front line of great power competition. He is declaring the Western Hemisphere is ours, okay? And DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, was not designed for that. DHS created after 9/11, and that's a whole different can of worms, and we can get into that some other time. But it was built to stop terrorism inside of the United States, at our airports, at our borders, disaster response, blah, blah, blah. But what the president is doing now is different, and different than any other president has done probably since Theodore Roosevelt, okay? This is hemisphere-level instability. We have the migration waves, we have state collapse, we have cartels that are moving people and drugs and weapons and intelligence. We have foreign adversaries embedding themselves inside of all of that chaos. So if you're the president and you're looking at the world and you're saying, we have got to shore up America to make sure we last another 150, 250 years, another 150 minutes at times, I feel like. You don't just run Border Patrol. You build a hemisphere defense system. You make sure that our darkest, Russia, China, Iran, are not running operations in this hemisphere, okay? Which may explain the phrase, shield of the Americas. Think about the name. It's not border control. It's not immigration enforcement. It's a shield of the Americas, the entire Western Hemisphere. That doesn't sound like DHS. That sounds more like strategic security architecture for the Western Hemisphere, doesn't it? Or he's just been watching Marvel comics, okay? But to me, the shield for the Americas, sounds a little bit more like something like NATO. Intelligence sharing, cartel disruption, migration control, counter-China operations. And if that's what's being built, you would need somebody who understands a few things: border security, state governments, law enforcement, and migration policy. Well, I mean, isn't that Kristi Noem? I mean, that's her entire resume, isn't it? So the story may not be Noem fired on the outs. the story might be Noem redeployed. Now let me talk about the second half of this move, because while she goes outward to whatever is coming next, and the president said he's going to be talking about that this weekend, Trump brought somebody inward, Senator Mullen. Who is Senator Mullen? He's a former MMA fighter. He's a business owner. He's a senator. And he's controversial. Some critics inside MAGA circles, some of them, accuse him of being too establishment. He has done things like business loans during COVID. He's got ethics complaints. He votes, against MAGA sometimes. Fine. Okay. Not my favorite, but debate is healthy. And the real question is not personality. It is function. If the White House is creating a new Western Hemisphere security structure, then DHS is about to become something different. Not a political platform, not a messaging department, but an operational machine. Mass deportations continue, border enforcement, domestic security, logistics, and Mullen, love him or hate him, has a reputation in Washington as somebody who picks fights and then executes orders. That's what Donald Trump wants. A fighter who can execute what he orders. Okay, that's his resume, and that tells me something important. This may not be a personnel shakeup. It may be the move in a larger security strategy, and a strategy built around the simple realization that for the next 20 years, America's biggest threats may not come across the ocean. They may come across our own hemisphere. Think of Mexico. And if that is true, then the United States may be about to build something we haven't had since the Cold War, a continental defense doctrine for the Americas. And if that's what Shield of the Americas turns out to be, yesterday was not a firing. Yesterday was the first chess move on a board none of us have been thinking about. All right, more in a second. Let me tell you about our sponsor this half hour. It's the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. The news lately has been full of big global headlines, missiles, airstrikes, warships, world leaders making decisions that are sending shockwaves all across the Middle East. Right now, the United States and Israel are working side by side in a major conflict with Iran. And if you watch coverage like this, it's easy to think only in terms of strategy and alliances and military power. But there's another side that doesn't make the headlines very often. The ordinary people who wake up every morning in Israel, surrounding areas, trying to live normal lives in a part of the world that has rarely been normal. Families who live with sirens and shelters as part of daily life. Communities that continue to hold on to their faith and their traditions, even when the world around them despises them and the world feels unstable. That's where the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews comes in. For decades, they've been providing food and medicine and life-saving support to vulnerable Jewish communities in Israel, especially in times of crisis. Now is your time to stand with Israel's most vulnerable. Rush your gift now to 888-488-IFCJ. Be a part of this movement. You want to find out more about it, go to ifcj.org, ifcj.org, or you can call them at 888-488-IFCJ. 10 seconds, station ID. So oil prices are not spiking, but they are rising. Jason, Jason Buttrill, thanks for filling in for me yesterday. I appreciate it.
Sure thing.
The oil prices have gone up about, $11 a barrel overnight. You want to show us the chart and what's going on?
So, this is producer Matt. Throw this up really quick. This is where oil prices are right now. So they're right around 87.28 as of now. It's fluctuating, but this is a kind of a sharp increase from yesterday. Going back to March 2nd, they were at 70. Yesterday they were still around 75, 73, 75. So over the past 24 to 48 hours, we've seen a pretty big uptick. There was I closed it now, but there was a CNBC article talking about how Iran is still targeting multiple different tankers within the Straits of Hormuz. They described it as currently a standstill within the Strait of Hormuz as far as tanker traffic is concerned. So I think a lot of people would kind of argue whether that it's actually closed right now, but in terms of actual traffic going through, the look and feel of it right now is that it's closed.
So here's the thing. First of all, the president is never going to allow them to close it. I think you will see a wave of strikes on their Navy. I think, at some point he's really going to concentrate. I know they've been doing that, but really concentrating on the Straits of Hormuz because it cannot shut it down. That will cause massive disruptions everywhere. Now, a little slowdown may not be bad. And let me explain. Who gets the majority of their oil through the Straits of Hormuz? It's China. China has just stopped running for the first time in how long, Jason, have they been running, air drills over Taiwan and doing dogfights and everything else, just to intimidate Taiwan? They've been doing this for years, a long, long time. They just stopped. They haven't been doing those for the last few days. Now, there's two reasons that might cause this. One, they're looking and saying, don't cause any attention. Let's not bring the eyes of Donald Trump towards us. I don't think that's the reason. I think the reason goes to oil. They are starting to hoard oil. They're taking all of their oil that they can get, and they're hoarding it. They are just guarding it like nobody's tomorrow because they know they may not have oil tomorrow. And so I think they're saving fuel right now by not doing the Taiwan dogfights, which is a really big deal and very telling on how close to the edge they just might be with oil.
Yeah, and can I add to that a little bit, because China doing these air incursions into Taiwan's airspace has been a very big part of their overall strategy to eventually launch an operation on Taiwan. And
Correct.
Part of that was just normalizing the idea that there's always going to be Chinese aircraft in your airspace. So later on down the line, when they finally do decide to do this attack, it's going to be masked. The people of Taiwan, the military, are not going to know, is this the attack or is this just more of the same? The fact that they're cutting that off right now means it's probably a combination of the two, as you laid out. But one, they don't really have the fuel to go around willy-nilly doing this kind of thing. But also, their strategic objectives all over the world are kind of thrown in flux right now. I don't think they really know what to do, but attacking Taiwan is not one of those things they can do in the near future, which is pretty wild to see.
So again, this goes to, why did the president go into Iraq? Into Iran. He went into Iran, yes, because we can't afford to have nuclear missiles. And also, we need to stop the terror. They are the head of the snake of terror, but they also provide Russia with all of the drones, and a lot of the oil from Iran goes to China. This guy is, again, think of him, the old saying, kill two birds with one stone. I really think Donald Trump is so strategic. He kills about 45 birds with one stone. It's like he skips rocks and just is knocking birds out all over the planet.
46, because he actually killed the Iranian who plotted to assassinate him.
Really?
Yes, in this mission.
Wow.
Just a bonus.
Just a bonus, an extra little skip there at the end. So the best thing, the reason why, usually if they were going to close the straits, if they were threatening to close it and there were war, you would see oil spike much higher than this, much, much higher than this. Why isn't it? One of the reasons, again, maybe what Donald Trump did with insurance. The reason why oil spikes in a war is because all of the insurance companies say, that's a war zone. We're no longer going to insure that oil or that ship. And so without insurance, you're not moving that thing. Okay, because everybody's like, I'm not risking that much money. And so everything stops. Donald Trump came out a couple of days ago and he said, United States will underwrite the insurance for those ships. That's a big deal. And we will escort those ships. We will make sure those ships do not stop in the Straits of Hormuz. So we're saying the Navy is going to protect all of the oil that is moving out. Now, it's interesting that, again, there's such a slowdown that CNBC calls it a virtual shutdown, that nothing is moving right now with this. But the reason why oil isn't spiking is, I believe the world believes that Donald Trump is on this and not going to let that oil sit there. And he's not going to let insurance companies stop the world from moving forward. It is he plays such risky games and such high stakes games. I mean, I don't know how he's walking around. You know how presidents age like 400 years in 4 years? I have not seen this guy age like normally happens after. I mean, remember, this has been a 16-year run for him. Okay. Or not 16. Yeah. 10-year run. 10-year run for him so far. It's not 8, it's 10, and he's still a ways away from finishing. So he's actually kind of been in this spotlight for 3 terms by the end of this. You see Barack Obama at the beginning of his first term, the end of his first term, he's gray, he looks different. And I know Donald Trump dyes his hair. I think he does. But still, what this guy has done compared to every other president, just the pace of it. I don't know how. I mean, I think I'd be dead. I don't know. I don't think I could do it. This guy just has the greatest genes of all time. All right. Some perspective next on Ken Paxton and what happened yesterday with Ken Paxton. That's coming up in just a minute. Stand by. By the way, did I mention it's Friday? All right, let me tell you about rough greens. Dogs don't hide how they feel. At least mine never have. If they're happy, you see it. It shows. Tail wagging, energy everywhere, ready for a walk, ready for a game, ready to do whatever you're doing. When a dog starts slowing down, you notice that just as quickly. Maybe they're not as eager to run after the ball, or they take a little longer to get up in the morning. A lot of times that comes down to nutrition. Not all the time, but a lot of times it does. Most dog foods are heavily processed, and over time, their body misses all of the natural nutrients that their body needs. That's where Rough Greens comes in. It's a nutritional supplement that you put on whatever it is you're feeding your dog, and it helps fill in those nutritional gaps with vitamins, minerals, probiotics, digestive enzymes, the kinds of things that your dog has to have to live and to live healthily. Don't change your dog's food. Just add Rough Greens to it. Rough Greens is offering a free Jumpstart trial bag. You just cover shipping. Use the discount code BECK and claim your free Jumpstart trial bag at roughgreens.com. Rough Greens, RUFF greens.com. Make sure you use the promo code BECK and get that free bag. You just pay for shipping. Roughgreens.com, promo code BECK.
The reviews for the Days of Ash series are in, and the people are hooked. Torch Insiders can listen free at glennbeck.com/torch.
Welcome back to the Torch Insider Show. I am Jason Butcher. I want to stick on this oil thing that Glenn was just talking about, because there are a few interesting stories just revolving around that and just going a little bit deeper, because insurance companies, in effect, basically are shutting down the Strait of Hormuz. In effect, insurance companies are doing this. So they're just being like, we're not going to insure you. We can just stop all of this. Now, when you look at the foreign policy objective of shutting down the Strait of Hormuz, the goal is to, from the Iranian perspective, is to stop any kind of war, stop any kind of action, because you'll get international hysteria that will basically force the United States or any other, let's just say it's not the United States, any country at all, to stop what they're doing in that area. Well, insurance companies are doing the work for the Iranians, basically. Now, who are these insurance companies? The vast majority of these insurance companies are based in London, in the UK. So it's kind of hard to figure out what the foreign policy is on the UK, except being antagonistic to Donald Trump right now. But I just find it interesting that while the government of UK's strategy is to be antagonistic to Donald Trump and stop whatever he's doing and do whatever the heck else they want to do, their own companies at the same time, whether because they're being prodded by the government or who knows what, they have the power to affect foreign policy while all of this is going on. Just something to look at when you look at everything coming out of London right now. Just be aware of it. It's something interesting. But there's one other thing that Glenn didn't mention as far as why oil is not spiking out the roof right now. And I'm just going to be checking this at random all day today. Producer Matt, throw this up again. We'll do this several times today during the broadcast, but oil prices are now up to 88. We'll probably see it go over 90. I'm guessing. Oh, it just went down a little bit to 87, 79. We'll see in a couple of hours where it goes, but we're approaching 90. So they're starting to become within that threshold of where they thought it was going to happen at the start of the war, which was somewhere in between $80 to 100. It didn't happen immediately. And as Glenn laid out, there's a new sheriff in town. Things are being done differently. But I also want to point this out, and I showed this to you maybe a couple of days ago, but this is a very, very big part of why. Look at that. I didn't even have to ask producer Matt, and he threw it up there. It's amazing. He'll get one less slap from me today. This is from Stephen Moore. He put this together, and he's pointing out that now under Donald Trump, the United States is breaking records with oil production, 13.6 million barrels a day. 13.6. When you look at this on this graphic representation, we now produce more oil than Saudi Arabia and Russia combined. Combined. We are destroying this industry in a good way, destroying all the other countries that are trying to keep up. And it's not even close right now. It's even crazier when you look at natural gas. We now produce as much natural gas as Russia, Iran, and China combined. Now, when you look at China's position on both of these, they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down the line on production of oil, and 1, 2, 3, 4 down the line in production of natural gas. Is it any wonder why they are, as per reports, hoarding gasoline and diesel and cutting back on some of their military operations? Interesting how all that works out. I've said this before, but think back 2 to 3 years ago, just that. There were people tracking BRICS movements and saying, "Oh, another country joined BRICS. Oh, another country joined BRICS. Oh, China and Russia are talking about overthrowing the dollar as the global reserve currency." America, you and I talked about this yesterday on the Buttrell Power Hour. We are no longer in a state of managed decline. That crap is over, and it switched in just a matter of months. It's nuts. And speaking of things changing, Glenn was talking about what's going on with Kristi Noem, the shield of the Americas, and possibly a replacement of NATO. And I think that's an amazing announcement. I think it's perfect. You think of the entire purpose of NATO doesn't even exist anymore, but somehow it continued on. Why did it continue on? Because the countries in NATO, primarily European, wanted us to continue to protect them and do all these things, have imbalanced trade, everything that benefited them. And we are saying no to that. Look at everything we've concentrated lately. Cuba. I can tell you the stories on Cuba that would blow your mind. Why haven't we been focused on Cuba ever since World War II? Well, it's because World War II upended all that. And I've got some just insane analysis on that will just blow your mind. But Venezuela, I'm not even going to have time because producer Matt is kicking me off again. But did you see what happened in Venezuela yesterday? Historic. I'll get back to that in another segment. But for now, Glenn finishes hour one.
Welcome to the Glenn Beck program. So yesterday, Donald Trump tweeted this. The Republican Party primary race for the United States Senate in the great state of Texas, a state I love and won 3 times in record numbers, the highest vote ever. Like, you could just hear him say these things. You know he wrote this. State I love, won 3 times in record numbers, highest vote ever recorded by far. Cannot, for the good of the party and our country itself, be allowed to go on any longer. It must stop now. We have an easy-to-beat radical left opponent, and we have to totally focus on putting him away quickly and decisively. Both John and Ken ran great races, but not good enough. Now this one must be perfect. My endorsement within the Republican Party have been virtually insurmountable. It has been virtually nobody thought it could be done. It is such an honor to realize and say that almost everyone I endorse wins, and wins by a lot, especially in Texas. I will be making my endorsement soon, and I'll be asking the candidate that I don't endorse to immediately drop out of the race. Is that fair? We must win in November. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. Okay, so he made that yesterday, and then Ken Paxton did something you almost never see in modern politics. He put policy above position, and he saw that, and he said, okay, I will step aside if Senate leadership will lift the filibuster barrier and pass the Save America Act. He said, I'll do it for the good of our country and to advance President Trump's agenda. Okay, so Donald Trump wants the Save America Act. Ken Paxton said, I will drop out and give you the other thing you want. I'll leave, but I want something in return. And it's not a job. It's not a position. I want Cornyn and Senate leadership to then pass the Save America Act. Now, here's why it matters. And if you're serious about saving the Republic, you should be paying attention here. This isn't a deal. It's a test. And it's a test of motives. It's so brilliant. Most dropout conversations in politics sound something like this. Well, what do I get? I get a job, a title, a payday, a pardon, a favor. What am I getting? And that's the kind of transactional politics that we see over and over and over again. People floating withdrawal or endorsement in exchange for a role, right? What Paxton is offering is categorically different. No personal prize on the table that we know of, only a measurable outcome for the country. I believe this is a noble gesture. And not because I'm asking you to like Ken Paxton or anything else, and not because I'm asking you to hate John Cornyn. I don't think you need do you need anybody to ask you to hate John Cornyn, to hate him more than you already do? What I'm asking you is to recognize the moral structure of what just happened. Personal ambition gets put on a scale. National necessity gets put on the other side of that scale. And Paxton is saying, if you do the necessary thing, I'll pay for it. I'll absorb the cost. In a time where everyone is known for doing just what's good for them, it's a rare move. A rare move that says, fine, hold me to a standard, but I'm going to hold you to one too. Now, I'm not saying that Ken is pure as a driven snow. I'm sure, you do the right thing and doors open for you. But this is really a test of Cornyn. Because if Cornyn wants to make this go away, if the Senate wants to make this go away, all he has to do is say, okay, we'll pass the Save America Act. And all that Donald Trump has to do is say, Ken, great idea. John, you're going to do that, right? You're going to go right into Congress. In fact, I'm going to take Ken up. But if you fail to pass that, you and your Senate cronies, guess who I'm endorsing? That's the way this should be done. Now, for anybody who has friends that don't know what the Save America Act is, it's the proof of ID. First you have to prove your citizenship. when you're registering to votes, like you have to in states like Texas and Florida and most other places, but it also requires a photo ID that you'll need to allow you to vote. That is something that has 80% approval rating nationwide. Even with Democrats, it's over 70%. I can't say this enough. This is the only bill I have seen in, 30 years that has a chance of unifying this country. We haven't been unified since right after 9/11. After 9/11, we were unified, and then it just all broke to hell. And we cannot agree on the color of the sky. And yet this one, we're almost in lockstep. That's as close to lockstep as politics ever gets, okay? Why? Because everybody knows if citizenship is meaningless at the ballot box, then citizenship becomes meaningless everywhere else. And look how meaningless citizenship is in our country right now. And if the vote isn't trusted, then nothing that follows is stable. The courts, the laws, the budgets, the wars, peace, any of it, okay? That's why Trump is demanding, and I'm quoting, Republicans pass it with passion and not watered down. Wow. This is a gift from Ken Paxton to the president. This is an absolute gift. I am giving you the leverage you need, that you want. Now, here's the hard part that the Democrats are struggling with, I think. And really, Republicans are with John Cornyn. What if the guy who makes it happen is somebody you don't like? Okay, let me do something that drives everybody crazy in 2026. I'm going to think out loud like a free man instead of joining a tribe. Let me take on that problem with Republicans like John Cornyn. Okay, do you do this? I mean, it's John Cornyn. I'm just going to tell you how I feel. I don't like John Cornyn at all. I think he's been part of the Washington machinery for far too long. I think he's been wrong too often when the moment demanded backbone. He has stood against the Trump agenda over and over and over and over, and I think he's truly part of the problem. That's my judgment. That's how I feel. But here is the question that we should ask in this moment. If a man you distrust will do something your children desperately need, and they do it the way you're asking them to do it, what was it, with passion and without compromise? Do you reject it because you distrust the man? That's not principle if you do. That's ego dressed up as principle. Paxton just short-circuited all of this. He just laid down a moral challenge, not just to Cornyn, but to everyone watching. Here's the question. Are you here to win, or are you here to save the nation? I'll go further. Oh, I can't believe it. If Cornyn would make that commitment publicly, specifically, and then actually follow through, not by supporting it in press releases while it quietly is allowed to die, not by jamming it full of amendments that weaken the core, not by turning it into Washington soup, but helping it get done the way Trump is calling for, then yes, he would buy enough goodwill with me that I would hold my nose and accept him as the nominee and vote for him because we can't have the other guy in, but I would not be happy about it. And I wouldn't suddenly believe, oh my gosh, he's a changed man, he's a great guy. But in an emergency, triage has to come before remodeling. You know what I mean? And while I can't vote for him as it continues to feed the deep state Republican machine, I can do it for this. This is a much bigger principle. I mean, it's so hard. Everything is on fire right now. The deep state is a real problem. It's a real problem. But if we don't pass the Save America Act, we'll never get to the problem of the deep state, okay? But he has to make this deal and then, as Trump said, do it with passion. And Mr. President, may I suggest you take Ken Paxton up on his offer, and then, because they'd have to pass this in the next few weeks, they have to do it right now. They can't wait around. Do not make your endorsement. Do not give that away for free. You're right. You make that endorsement, it's done. Do not give that away for free. John Cornyn is part of the McConnell-Thune problem. And if they want this guy in for Senate, then they have to pay a heavy price that they don't want to pay, because we don't want to pay it. I don't want to pay it. And you are a deal maker. You know deals better than anybody else. This is a good deal. This is a good deal for them. We'll get out of your way. You get that seat, but we get the Save America Act. I don't know if every Republican would feel comfortable with that, but I am. But I'm not sure I've seen this ever before. You know, we're in this social media era, and you've got runoff pressure and Trump's endorsement leverage and a high-profile policy hostage to the Senate. But Ken Paxton stepping to the plate and making this offer is kind of old America stuff. You know what I mean? That kind of feels like America in our best. Because when it comes down to it, when America's on fire, it's always held together by leaders who do the unthinkable. You know, they bring rivals in, they swallow pride, they subordinate themselves to survive, the greater nation to survive. Lincoln did this when he brought in his team of rivals, all of the political competitors, because the Union was cracking and he needed capacity more than comfort. And that's the point. When the house is on fire, you don't ask whether the man holding the hose once insulted you at dinner. Isn't that the guy? Shut up! He's putting the house out. So the real headline here should not be Paxton versus Cornyn. The real headline is this: a sitting U.S. senator is being offered political mercy on one condition: do the country-defining work that the president wants. And here's what every politician should hear: Cornyn, Thune, leadership, all of them. The people are demanding election integrity. And we're not doing it for clout. We're not doing it because we're bored. We're not doing it because we're stupid. We're doing it because we know we are near to the edge of the republic, and that a few foundational things have to be secured if the republic is going to remain a republic. And if Ken Paxton, of all people, can say, I'll sacrifice my own path if you'll do what's right, then every man in Washington needs to look in a mirror and ask themselves, what is it I'm sacrificing? Because if the answer is nothing, then don't dare lecture the public about saving the republic. Back in a minute. The internet was created for a very specific purpose, to bring us all closer together. And boy, isn't that work. It's also created a lot of problems. Your entire life, your bank accounts, your credit cards, your email, your tax records. Oh, they're much closer. Your medical information. Oh, it's brought everybody closer together on all of that. Little packets of information are stored on servers that you're never going to see, and they're controlled by systems you're never going to touch. And you don't think about it until something goes wrong, until a credit card charge appears that you didn't make. A loan shows up in your name. Somebody starts using your identity to open new accounts. Once your personal information is out there, it can move so fast. That's why services like LifeLock exist. In fact, they invented this. They monitor millions of data points every second for signs that your identity may be being used in ways you didn't authorize, things you probably wouldn't see until the damage was already done. And if you do become a victim of identity theft, a U.S.-based restoration specialist is going to work to fix the problem or your money back. LifeLock. Protect yourself. LifeLock. Join now. Save up to 40% off your first year with the promo code Beck. Make sure you use the promo code Beck at 1-800-LifeLock, 1-800-LifeLock, or lifelock.com. Promo code Beck. Terms and conditions do apply.
You're going to be thinking about that for a couple minutes, huh? Glenn Beck will be right back.
Welcome back to the Torch Insider Show. I am Jason Butcher. I'm going to get to a few of your comments here in a second, specifically one of the comments, because as Glenn was going through that, and I kind of hope he's listening to us right now, because as he was going through that, I've got my own theory on what's, I guess, attached to everything that's happening right now with Ken Paxton, Cornyn, and the President of the United States. So I agree with everything Glenn was just talking about. I think this is pretty historic, though, how Paxton is talking about this. This is a person. I throw this up really quick just so we have the direct context of what Ken Paxton did. But this is where he was talking about how he is willing to drop out if the Senate will pass the Save America Act. So this is, you could look at it like it's incredibly selfless. You can look at it like, well, he's willing to do the bigger thing. But I think there's more involved here. Maybe it's just the way that I've been trained to think here. But we know the president was about to weigh in and give an endorsement. We can assume that he spoke to both Cornyn's camp. We can assume, I would guess, that he's also spoken to Ken Paxton. Let me just start off with saying Cornyn sucks hard. He's one of the dangers of keeping him in and doing this entire thing is that he's one of the reasons why most of us are so disenfranchised with the way Congress works. We elect them for a reason. We give them a mandate to get in there, and then they end up not doing it. And a lot of people end up saying, well, screw it, I'm not even going to vote. He's one of the reasons why we do not like the way the system works right now. But in saying that, and in the context of what Glenn was just talking about, politics is never one-sided. It's never, oh, I'm just doing this for the good of the country. It never is. It'd be great if there were some George Washingtons out there, but they're very rare. So I'm wondering if there's more attached for the incentives for Ken Paxton on this. What could that be? I'm going to read the comment from Escaped from Massachusetts, and there was a couple more that I saw, but Escape from Taxachusetts was one of the first ones. Excellent name, by the way. He said, Paxton for Attorney General when Bondi out. Escaped from Taxachusetts, I think you're right on the money on that, and that's kind of what I'm feeling too. It's talking about skipping a rock and just knocking off multiple birds with one stone. I mean, you would get the Save America passed. You would get Cornyn in for at least a little while, who I guess in their analysis thinks that he is going to get, has the better chance to get Tallarico out, and we do not need Tallarico in there. You get those things. Downside is Cornyn's there for a little while longer, but at least we wouldn't have Tallarico, I guess, in their mindset of that. But what does he also get? This is the president. He knows there's an issue with Pam Bondi. He's going to defend her as much as he can, but he knows a vast majority of us, the base, do not like Pam Bondi. He would get Pam Bondi out, and Ken Paxton wins Attorney General. He would have to still get through confirmation, which would probably be a long road, but he would still get that theoretically if he can get the Senate on board. And he would already have the Senate pretty much on board because he is delivering them Cornyn, which is what it sounds like they want. So Tallarico out, Save America Act passed, Bondi out, and Ken Paxton gets Attorney General. Perfect! I mean, yeah, I like it. It makes sense. Now here's Glenn with the rest of the show.
Welcome. We're so glad that you're here. There's a couple of things. First of all, let me say this. Paxton might get something out of all of this. I want to make sure that I'm not saying it's, pure as a driven snow. I think I said that. What I would like to see Paxton get is Pam Bondi's job, but I don't think that's in the cards. It would be nice, but I don't think that's in the cards myself. I would just really like to see the president use this opportunity to use it as negotiation, as a hammer. He doesn't need me to say that. He obviously gets that. There's also another disturbing story in the Washington Post. Russia is providing Iran intel on targeting Americans. I'll look into that story a little bit. This is worth probably reading and understanding, and I'll try to explain that to you. Also, Bloomberg is reporting at the same time, U.S. is now easing oil sanctions on the Kremlin and is allowing India to buy Russian oil until April. That one makes sense, especially if the WAPO thing is true. If they are starting to defend and get stronger with Iran, it's probably worth saying to India, hey, let them go ahead, buy some of their oil until April, until this passes. Let's ease some of the pressure off of them so they're not dragged into supporting Iran. If that deal can be made, that's probably a really good deal. But it's disturbing if they are indeed providing Iran with intel on, Americans. I don't even know what that means exactly. Yeah, it's me. It's me. Is that who's? Yeah, that's where the hacking is coming from.
GlennBeck.com.
Yeah, all right. Thank you so much for listening. More in just a second as we try to solve all of the world's problems in one 3-hour broadcast. It's just that easy.
Welcome back to the Torch Insider. So I am Jason Buttrill. I still think that is what's going on, what we just talked about. I just saw a comment from, who was it? Was it GMCS 2020? It says, dang it, Jason, give credit where credit is due. I said it first. I saw multiple people say it. I saw Taxachusetts say it, I think the last, and I just quickly wrote it down. But yeah, a few of you were saying this, and I think it makes complete and perfect sense. I mean, it solves really everything, especially the confirmation process. It's give and take on both sides. So, do you want to pass this? Okay, well, this is what has to happen. Oh, you need Cornyn to defeat Tallarico. Okay, this is what we're going to give you. Things being offered and exchanged on all sides. The president weighs in, says, but you need to get this guy confirmed as being Paxton. When it comes to Attorney General, you have to lock down all support on the GOP to ensure that he gets confirmed. Okay, you got what you want. You got what you want. Okay, we're good. Okay, fine. And then Bondi is out and Paxton goes in. It makes complete and perfect sense. I cannot wait to see how this goes forward. We have a lot to get to today. I didn't even really get to some of our guest breakdowns over the next couple of hours. Coming up is hour 2. We do not have a guest in hour 2, which is a good thing because Glenn still has a lot of stuff to get to. Hour 3, we're going to have Dr. Deborah. So she's going to come in and talk about. I'll let Glenn pitch that. It's going to be an interesting topic. Glenn still has I really do not know how he's going to have time to get to all of it. It's just wild, as it usually is. And this is a Friday, which is nuts. I've got a George AI that I wanted to preview for you yesterday. I did not get around to it. I think we'll probably have time. Probably in a couple minutes. We'll do that in this segment, I think. That's about the Department of Education. That's going to be really good. And then a ton of your comments that I really have not gotten to. A lot of stuff, a lot of foreign policy stuff that you guys are talking about today, which is right up my alley. So there's a lot that I still want to say, especially on Kristi Noem's new appointment. There's a lot to be said there. Oh, and I promised you something from Venezuela. That was historic and just amazing, especially in the context of the shield. What was it called? Shield of Americas? What was that called? Yeah, the Shield of the Americas, especially in that context. Let's jump down right into your comments really quick before I start filibustering and don't get around to it. Lee Christian, I heard China was giving intelligence to the Iranians. Glenn was just talking about the Russians doing that as well. And you said, I would bet Russia is too, and I am not a gambler. You don't need to be a gambler on that because, yeah, they are giving intelligence, both China and Russia. They're giving intelligence. They're giving military equipment, hardware. They're giving all kinds of support on this. They're towing that line of not going too far to where they can be directly linked to. Basically, look at what the entire West has been doing in Ukraine and towing that line and not being, having a clear, I guess, evidence trail that what we did contributed to the death of Russians in that war. They're doing to us in Iran, and that will still continue. That's old school Cold War tactics, and it's playing out today, which is kind of scary when you think of that context. But yes, that is happening. Some guy. This is so amazing. Trump is literally replacing NATO with his own League of Nations. It's unprecedented. Lewis W. These are surely dangerous times, but also the most exciting, and history will remember this for decades like we do World War II. I completely agree. I think when they look forward, I say 20, 50 years, they will look back on this stretch of 4 years and say, we have never seen